How's it going, everybody? My name's Ryan F. It's great to be with everybody tonight. I had to get that in there because Angel gives me grief when I skip it. Um, welcome to another edition of the Line of Scrimmage. We're going to recap last week's college football action. We'll get into this week's top 25, and we'll have the money pick at the end of the show. Obviously, you can see LV is not here with us tonight again. Unfortunately, had some family stuff come up again, so John Scott over here, Angel Martinez, has kindly, he's normally behind the scenes producing the show, but he's graced me with his presence to join me again tonight. Angel, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. The Phillies right now are looking good. And I say for now, because we know what happens the night before. Well, that was the night before. Tonight's a different night. They're looking monstrous. And as I take from your line, it's great to be with you.
Well, I'm going to jump right into it here. There were no real surprises last week for me anyway, but there were four games that were kind of surprising. The first one of the biggest ones of the day, was Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma comes out victorious. I thought, you know, Texas would win this football game. They didn't. Oklahoma came to play. Um, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback for Oklahoma, had a fantastic game. Texas, not so much. I mean, it was even for the most part throughout the game. It was going back and forth, but Texas turned the ball over three times, one fumble, two interceptions. Um, Oklahoma did not turn the ball over at all. Now, Oklahoma had to hold on to win, but they get big win for this program after finishing 5-7 last year, or 5-6, I think it was. I can't remember. It was 5-6 or 5-7, somewhere in there. So, really big win for Oklahoma. We got to pump the brakes on Texas now a little bit because when they beat Alabama, you know that we're we're back. Well, you have to. This is the Red River rivalry. Both these teams are jumping to the SEC next year. It'll still be a rivalry. They won't probably play every year, but Oklahoma with the victory, I'm surprised. I want to see how both these teams respond. So, huge win for Oklahoma. I know, Angel, you're a busy man. So, I don't know if you caught any college football action this weekend. So, Angel he's the face of Broad Street South. So he's a busy individual behind the scenes. It's like the Frosty, the original Frosty, where he's got busy. That's basically what he is. So, but again, I don't know if you caught any of the game. I don't know if you caught any of the action. Your thoughts?
I did not, as much as I would love to have. I did not, as I had a couple meetings over the weekend, so I ended up missing out a lot of stuff. But I will say, though, Oklahoma from years past, we all know, and Texas too, which is kind of surprising, honestly. I mean, they're not that far ranked off each other, fifth and ninth. Uh, but I think I want to say you called this one a close one last week, and a close one it was at 34-30. But Oklahoma, am I surprised with the win? I think so. And I don't remember from last week, and I may have picked Oklahoma for the win as well. But just referencing off of years past and seeing what Oklahoma has not been doing so far this season, just looking record wise, not the same Sooners that we have seen from years past. Uh, but nevertheless, I mean, I think, using the word steal, maybe they stole one from Texas. Again, at least that's the way it looked like for me. Texas, one of those powerhouse teams, but just end up falling short just by four.
Yeah, I mean the turnovers killed Texas. I mean, three of them. Oklahoma took care of the football. It was Oklahoma's 34-30. Oklahoma's defense, I think, was the difference in this football game, turning them over three times. And of course, turnovers kill. So, again, it'll be interesting to see how both these teams respond. If Oklahoma comes down off the high, or, how's Texas going to get up for their next opponent? The next game I wanted to focus on, and Angel called this one. I didn't. Uh, Notre Dame goes into Louisville, and they get taken behind the woodshed. I know it was only 13-point deficit, but the game wasn't even that close. So, surprised at this. I thought Notre Dame, coming off that Ohio State loss, they would get themselves back up. They didn't. They're now 5-2. They are most likely way out of the national championship race. There's no way in hell they're going to make the playoff. Maybe next year when they go to the 12 teams, but they're not making the 4 teams this year. So, um, again, the stat that jumps out at me is Louisville turned Notre Dame over 5 times. 2 fumbles lost, 3 interceptions. Louisville only coughed it up once. Um, Sam Hartman, Sam Hartman for Notre Dame. Everybody thought he was going to be answer. He had a terrible game. 22 of 38, 254, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Did not look good. Um, Notre Dame only rushed the ball 28 times for 44 yards, which is not going to get it done. Um, Louisville didn't really pass the ball that much, only 24 times. They ran it 40 times for 185 yards. So they grounded and pounded. They played defense. They didn't turn the ball over. They controlled the clock. And again, this just was another surprise to me because I really thought Notre Dame would get themselves back up, go into an undefeated Louisville on the road, and I'm wrong. I've been known to be wrong before. So, um,
What?
so uh, you called it. You took Louisville last week, and you know, kudos to you.
That's right. Don't let the glasses fool you because four eyes is better than two. And the two extra that I saw was the win coming off Louisville. Hey, listen, call it whatever you want. Notre Dame obviously should have won and they should have rebounded, just like you said. That should have been an onslaught against Louisville. And if for in all honesty, it should have been, but they didn't. Louisville was able to hang around from what it seems like. And then I would assume was the second half that Louisville ended up taking over from Notre Dame. So again, the score shows at 38-20. And I'm almost certain I came up with a goofy score as well, too, for that game. And call me nuts. But hey, sometimes you pick them and you win. Sometimes you lose. But this one, I thought, and I was secure on that one. So Louisville now ranked 14th, Notre Dame at 21st. As you said, to be bowl eligible now at this point, you have to pretty much win out,
Well, no, I mean you have to win 6 games. I mean Notre Dame will get bowl eligible,
right?
but there were a lot of people who were jumping on Notre Dame this year just because of the experience. Hartman transferring from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. He's a senior. They thought he was going to get them over the hump, and heartbreaking loss home against Ohio State, and they were not prepared for this football game against Louisville. I thought it was a hangover, and again, it doesn't get any easier for Notre Dame this week. They've got to play USC. So, which leads me into another surprise. Yes, USC beat Arizona 43-41, but my God, USC's defense. Where the hell are you? You know, Colorado scored a bunch on you and you won the game. You had to hold on for this one. I mean, Arizona, Noah Fafita. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Noah Fafita. 25 of 35, 303 yards, 5 touchdown passes, 1 pick. They ran the ball 42 times for 203 yards. They were matching USC, blow for blow. USC, Caleb Williams, kind of his Heisman took a little bit of a hit. He was only 14 of 25 for 219 yards, 1 touchdown. I didn't throw any interceptions. But again, eventually, this non-defensive unit, if you want to call it for USC, is eventually going to catch up with them. They have to play Washington. Lord knows Washington has one of the best offenses in the country, but you can't continue to win games 48-41 and 43-41. Eventually, it will catch up to you. So I thought USC would blow Arizona out. Arizona's much better than I thought. They have played all their opponents tough, and this is another surprise for me. I know USC got the win, but if you want to be taken seriously at some point, you're vying for a Pac-0 championship. You're trying to make the college football playoff, and wins. Yes, it's a W, but you've got to have some style points, and
Right.
this didn't do justice. So, your thoughts, my friend?
I said last week that Arizona was going to step up, and they didn't. They came up short, but I think we both picked USC for sure. And you're right, it should have been a blowout. And I guess maybe we're all, or obviously for the folks in Arizona, it's a whole different story. They see this team week in week out, but I think it's surprising that they were able to hang in as well as they did. Joey B comes in saying the USC defense has more holes in it than a penguin pretzel. Good Lord. Joey, it's good to see you. uh, well, Joey, getting your take here, since you're here with us this evening, you're, as Ryan, you guys are more college-esque than I am, because obviously over the weekends, I have a lot of things to do behind the scenes to continue getting the network to grow. But Arizona, I mean, Ryan, I guess, are they that good? What's their record right now? I have not looked it
I
up.
mean, they're 3-3. I mean, Arizona has always been that sort of program where they're 7-5, 6-6. You can throw in an
Okay.
8 or there every once in a while. They're trying to build something there.
Yeah.
They've been down for a little while, and again, they're jumping ship as well. Um, like I said, the only two teams from the Pac Zero that are going to be left are Oregon State and Washington State. So Arizona is trying to build for the future,
Mhm.
but USC has got a fantastic offense. There's no doubt about it. It's just that defense from the start of the season, when they played San Jose State up to this point, they're just, you said about the Penguin pretzels. Well, this defense is probably more salty than a Penguin pretzel. So there's just it they've got holes. They haven't been able to fix it. It's just bad. Joey B. USC will lose some big games, like Ryan said. Oregon, Washington, Oregon State, not Gimmies. UCLA always plays them. Yeah, I mean, eventually it's going to catch up with them. Oregon's got a fantastic offense. Washington State, Oregon State. Um, and again, yes, defense wins championships. And I mean, let's be honest. The last 20 years, there has been no defense in the Pac Zero, other than those early 2000 USC teams, which are fantastic. But there's traditionally over the last 20 years, there's been no defense in the Pac Zero. So again, we'll see what happens with both those programs going forward. And the only other surprise I had in here, Miami at home, Georgia Tech, who is not that good, and you had all the momentum, and you lay an egg, and you lose to Georgia Tech 23-20. If anybody watched that game, it was bad clock management. But again, you hear a theme here. Miami, uncharacteristically, turned the ball over 5 times. Georgia Tech turned it over twice. And when you turn the ball over that many times, you're probably not expecting to win. And Miami just didn't look like themselves. I mean, Georgia Tech was nothing spectacular. They only had 13 first downs. Miami had 23. But again, you can't turn the ball over 5 times. Yes, Georgia Tech turned it over twice, but that still makes them +3 in the turnover category. And that was the difference in the ball game. And I know because Mario Cristobal was the Miami guy that was going to come in, change the culture. He's a Miami grad. He's been on national championship teams. There's just you just don't see it year in and year out. For the last 5 years, that's all I've heard about Miami is this is their year. This is the year they're going to turn it around. This is the year they're going to turn around. People in today's college football, in today's era, people who root for Miami have to let go of what it once was because you're never going to see that again, ever. Not in today's era, not in today's college football. Can they get somebody to build it back up to that point? Maybe. But we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it since the early 2000s. They let Larry Coker go, you know? So, we'll see how Miami responds, but they started off 3-0 last year, and then they lost a couple games, and then the season tail spinned out of control. And I sort of see the same thing happening here. They're not going to win an ACC title. So,
My sentiments as well, because as you said, you got to let things go. Miami, boy, sounds like the Dallas fans. You have to let it go. embrace the VCR tapes because you're never going to see it in the digital era. And that is my spiel when it comes to the Cowboys. But no, you're right though. They have to let it go. And we both picked Miami. I do remember that. And I picked it for, of course, Miami Mondo for the win. That guy should be. Is there a college uh, um, fan Hall of Fame?
I would have to research that. I don't know. That's researching stuff like that is not my expertise.
All right.
So
Well, if
when it,
there is,
when it comes
or
to stuff on the field, and then we'll have to research that for the next show.
all right. Well, then if Joey B's still on, maybe Joey will know as well. But no, he should be listening. He should be one of the Hall of Fame uh, fans Hall of Fame because it's so much that he gets into it. I mean, Miami crazy is the best way to put it. So, Miami Mondo, sorry I let you down on this one. I didn't as a team, just I guess in the picks. But yeah, Georgia Tech, you said it, Ryan. Not a good school. Now, this I know that much is that Georgia Tech is not a good school, but they were good enough to beat Miami. So, it can Miami look down the road to the Dolphins to see what the Dolphins are doing? Again, two different levels, NFL, NCAA. But it makes you wonder how good Miami is going to be, or do they make changes at the end of the season? Because I think there was a lot of high hopes for Miami this season, and it's been very mixed reactions so far early in the season.
Yeah, I mean they used to call it the state of Miami is what they used to call it way back in the day, and they roped it off from Miami all the way up to probably Daytona, and then they would come over to Tampa through Orlando, and then all the way down. They used to call it the state of Miami. That's what they would concentrate on. Well, you know, again, you got to recruit against Florida, Florida State, South Florida, Central Florida. There's other recruiters that come into Florida that they recruit for other schools. So again, it's an uphill climb for Miami, but again, the days of yore are gone. So that recaps last week. Now we're going to get into this week. Um, Try and speed up the process because we got a little bit of a late start. So let's go to the top 25 this week. So I had it written. Here we go. Number 24, Kentucky hosts Missouri. Sorry for our English speaking friends. That would be Missouri. Um,
Or Missouri.
got Kentucky favored by 2.5 at home. Kentucky coming off just a drubbing against Georgia. It happened 2 years ago where both teams were 5-0. Kentucky went into Georgia. They just got lambasted. Um, Missouri 5-1. I didn't see them at 5-1 so far this year. Don't know how Kentucky's going to respond. Um, we'll see. They're at home. It's a big game for both these schools. Both will get bowl eligible with a win. Um, but I give the slight edge to Kentucky. I know they got drubbed last week. I think they get back up. Missouri's going to give them a tussle. But I think in the end, Kentucky wins a close one. So I'm going to go Kentucky 30, Missouri 26.
Kentucky. The University of Kentucky comes off a big loss off of Georgia.
Yep.
To bounce back off of a big loss it's a monumental feat. But you know what? Missouri hung in there against LSU, even though they end up losing by 10. But I'm going to give this one to Missouri. I'm taking the polar opposite. I'll go Missouri squeaking it out 28-27.
All right, so the Angels going the other way. I am going with Kentucky to win at home. Next game on the slate that I have written down here is we got number 23 Kansas going to Oklahoma State. Going to Stillwater. Kansas is favored by 3 on the road. Oklahoma State showed a right at the ship last week with a huge win. Kansas, again, they're 5-1. They started the year last year like this, and they tailspinned out of control. I think Oklahoma State, they weren't expected to win last week, and they came away with a huge win. Kansas going to Stillwater, tough environment. It's a 3:30 start. I think Stillwater will be rocking, and I'm just, it's just sort of a toss-up for me. But I think Oklahoma State with the home field advantage be a close game. This is going to be another one where it's going to be like 30-27.
Hmm. You said OKC. Well, something just happened with my computer here, so hopefully it'll come back. OKC. Hmm. You know what? To make it short and sweet, I'm going to take OKC for the win. I'm not even going to give a score because I just it would be above me at this point. So, but I'm going to go with for the win.
All right, so we're both in agreement there. Next game on the slate, we have number 22 LSU hosting Auburn. If anybody watched the LSU game again this week, it was another shootout, and LSU's another one. When's your defense going to start showing up? Because they didn't show up again. You know, they were playing Missouri. It was Tigers versus Tigers, and Missouri had them. They had them on the ropes. They had the foot on the throat, and then they let LSU back up. And if anybody watched the game, Missouri still had sort of a chance to win it, and then the quarterback from Mizzou threw a pick six. I think it was within like the last minute of the game. Auburn 3-2. I think Auburn started off 3-0. They've lost 2 in a row. Again, Tigers versus Tigers. So it's the Auburn Tigers, LSU Tigers. This is a 7 o'clock start, and anybody knows when you go into Death Valley at night, the place actually registers on the Richter scale when the fans start jumping up and down in the stadium. So this will be another shootout, but LSU at home, Death Valley, under the lights. This will be another one. I'm going to go LSU 34, Auburn 28.
Yeah, I'm going to take LSU coming off the win off of Missouri. I think I'll keep that rolling, that momentum going. So I'll go LSU as well. And I'll go 35-28.
And then we have 2 teams tied at 19th. So I'll go to the more interesting one for me. We have Texas A&M going to Tennessee. Everybody thought Texas A&M. I picked Texas A&M to beat Alabama last weekend, and I'm a fool for going against Nick Saban because he's been in those big type of games before. Tennessee at home, they're favored by 3. Tennessee 4-1. A&M, coming off a loss like that to Alabama. Now you have to go on the road to Tennessee. I believe Tennessee had the bye week last week, so they're rested. They're probably healthy. Texas A&M coming off a physical game. I don't see Texas A&M going there and beating them. This could actually be a defensive struggle because both defenses are solid. So I'll go Tennessee 27 and Texas A&M 20.
Tennessee, the Volunteers. Why not? I went with a pick 'em last week. This will be my pick 'em this week. Texas A&M pulls it off by some crazy miracle at the end of the game. So I'll go with Texas A&M 32 and some wacky score of 31.
Sometimes I think he just does this to aggravate me. So. The other 19th ranked team in the country, Washington State. They're at home against Arizona. Washington State had off last week. Arizona had the heartbreaker to USC. And again, that was at home. You have a heartbreaking loss like that, it's tough to get back up. Now you got to go on the road. Washington State, tough place to play in Pullman. Washington State is a different team when they're at home. Washington State's favored by 8 at home. Again, Washington State rested, had the bye. Arizona, heartbreaking loss, emotional. I think Arizona just cannot get up for this game after that loss last week. Washington State at home, it's a night game. Probably get really cold. Lord knows what the weather will be. I think Washington State puts it on them. Washington State 42, Arizona 20.
Now, you know what? Arizona almost pulled it off last week against USC. I think that they edged this one, and I'm going to go. This might be, if it's cold, who knows? Could be a low scoring affair. So I'm going to go 20 Arizona 17, Washington State.
He's aggravating me.
I
He's
have
just
to.
doing, just doing this to aggravate me now. Next game on the slate, we got number 17 Duke hosting NC State. Duke 4-1. Of course, they had the loss to Notre Dame. They had the bye week, rested. NC State sitting at 4-2. They had a game against Marshall last week. Marshall gave them a tussle for a while, and NC State pulled away. Uh, Again, I like what Duke has going. Had the chance to beat Notre Dame, didn't. This is a late start. Um, it's an 8 o'clock start actually, so it's a night game. NC State, obviously, NC State didn't have to travel real far, so um, this is another toss up for me because I would like to take NC State, but I think Duke with the rest. I just think that again, this is going to be a close game. It'll be a defensive game, but I'm going to go Duke 27, NC State 24. They eke
And
it out.
I'm going exactly with the same thing because Duke Blue Devils are going to take this one from NC State. I think they'll be fired up. Obviously, 17th ranked. They want to keep it that way, if not get better. So, yeah, I will, and I will match your score as well.
All right, let's see. He's getting back on my good side now.
I'm trying.
Next on the slate, we got number 16 Utah hosting Cal. Utah had that, you know, really they looked terrible a couple of weeks ago. Um, and Cal, kind of tough. They're sitting at 3-3. Utah's favored by 12 at home. Uh, you know, Utah's just a different team at home. Um, they played Oregon State a couple of weeks ago. They got taken behind the woodshed. But I just think Utah at home, the crowd behind them, defense at home is a little bit different. I think Cal hangs around for a while. They're a decent team, sitting at 3-3. They're not spectacular. They're a middle of the tier team. I just think there's too much Utah home cooking. It's a 3 o'clock start, Eastern Standard Time, so it's a noon kickoff there. I just think too much Utah at home. I'm going to go Utah 34, California 17.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go with you with Utah as well. I think California has been showing kind of their colors, to put it in the lightest terms, but I think Utah wins this one at home. It could be a bigger one as well. So I'm going to go Utah 42, California 10.
Ooh, here we go. Let's see. Next game on the slate I have here is number 15 Oregon State hosting number 18 UCLA. Uh, Oregon State with the big win a couple weeks ago. UCLA, Chip Kelly has a way of doing things. Um, and who did they beat last week? I'm sorry. I'm trying to scroll through my notes.
UCLA.
No, they beat Washington State. Um, they look dominant in doing so.
Mhm.
Um, Oregon State, both these teams need to keep pace with Washington, USC, Oregon. This is a late start Eastern Standard Time. It starts at 8 o'clock our time. It's a late afternoon start their time, 5 p.m. Again, Oregon State at home. It's a tough place to play. The crowd will be behind them. UCLA is they're a little bit different on the road. They struggle a little bit. So, Oregon State was one of my sleepers in the Pac Zero, and I've got to stick with it. Now, it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a tussle. I think it'll be a defensive game, but I'm going to go Oregon State 28, UCLA 24.
This is a tough one. Oregon State and UCLA. Because you're right, Chip Kelly does pull off some surprises. Didn't pull out any in Philadelphia, thank God, but he does in the college ranks. I feel like UCLA would edge out Oregon State, but I think Oregon State comes to play, obviously, and comes to win. So uh, I'll take Oregon State 28, UCLA 27.
See, ladies and gentlemen, I just had to give him a little time. And he's coming. He's coming over to my side now. See, just takes patience and time.
It does at times.
Oh God, let's see. The next one on the slate I have number 14 Louisville going to Pittsburgh. Louisville 7.5 point favorites on the road. Pittsburgh in disarray. They just don't look good. This is probably one of the worst seasons Pat Narduzzi's had at Pitt. They just cannot seem to turn the corner. They're beat up. They're banged up. Louisville, big win against Notre Dame, 6-0, in the thick of it for an ACC title with Florida State and North Carolina. This is going to be a Pittsburgh going to get their ass kicked. To be quite honest with you, Louisville just playing too well, and of course Ronnie G, our boy, played at Louisville, obviously played in the NFL. This I just don't see it. There's no way Pittsburgh's going to be complete. They'll probably wind up making a fool out of me, but I just think Louisville's going to run all over them. I'm going to go Louisville 42, Pitt 13.
Yeah. I'm going and keeping with Louisville, keeping on pace from last week, and I think they pull off another win this week. So I'm going Louisville. I'll make it a 28-17 game.
There you go. And I'm scrolling through my notes, so give me a second. The
Sure.
next one I have on the slate here, we have number 25 Miami going to number 12 North Carolina, going to Chapel Hill. North Carolina's favored by 3.5. Miami is another late start, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's on ABC. Um, I'm surprised the spread's not a little higher. So Vegas still giving a little love to Miami, even though they're coming off that loss to Georgia Tech. Again, North Carolina, people are talking about them as, they're an ACC front runner as well, undefeated. Do I think Miami will play as bad as they did against Georgia Tech? No. But North Carolina is a different beast, and especially at home. Again, night games are always rocking and home cooking. I think Miami will play them tough, but North Carolina needs to know what they have to do, and their their defense this year is head and shoulders above where it's been the last couple of years. I think Miami hangs around for a half, but I think too much North Carolina in the second half. I'm going to go North Carolina 37, Miami 24.
Yeah, I think North Carolina coming off that monstrous win off of last week. I don't see Miami. And again, who knows? Again, any given Saturdays is like any given Sunday. It could be a Miami. Could maybe it's a turnaround game for them. I think USC, you on the run you just made last week. There's no way in the world you would turn around and put up a fat goose egg. So for me, UNC takes this one. I think they actually take it 35-21 over Miami.
And the next game we have up is, sorry, just scrolling through the notes.
No
We have
worries.
number 11 Alabama hosting Arkansas. Alabama favored by 20 at home. This is a real early start for Alabama. It starts at noon, which means it's 11 o'clock their time, I believe, because I believe they're an hour behind. I
Yep.
could be wrong on that. Alabama, Arkansas, was in a tussle with Ole Miss. They wind up losing. Again, emotional, close loss. Alabama, since the loss to Texas, they've seemed to find a groove now. So the court, James Milroe at the quarterback position it's still up in the air, still iffy, but the defense is finally starting to find their groove, and I think offensively they're doing just enough. Arkansas is outmatched. Alabama at home. The spread's 20. Um, the way they played the first quarter of the season, the first three games,
Right.
take the spread. But, I just think Arkansas is in for a rude awakening this weekend. So I'm going to go Alabama 40, Arkansas 17.
Yeah, I can't see Alabama dropping another one. Not at least at this point where saving is. So I'll take Alabama. Uh, could it be a high scoring affair? Probably so. So I'll take Alabama 38, Arkansas 17.
All right, my friend. Next game on the slate. Number 10 USC going to number 21 Notre Dame. Notre Dame's favored by 3 at home. Somebody knows something. Somebody knows something. USC 6-0, sitting at 10. That defense, again, somebody knows something. Um, the last two losses for Notre Dame, you lose a close one to Ohio State, and then you just get waxed, against Louisville. Which Notre Dame team shows up? I don't know. I don't trust USC's defense, Angel. I think this is where they slip up. And I think Notre Dame, somehow, some way, and it's a late start, by the way, in South Bend. It's a 7:30 start. So that place is going to be rocking as well. I just don't trust the USC defense. I know Notre Dame's coming off the two losses, but I just think Notre Dame gets the W. This is my upset special. I'm going Notre Dame 30, USC 27.
I'm going to have to probably agree with you as well because only as you talked about the USC's defense and you're going up against Notre Dame. And again, it could be the tale of two tapes by the time this one's said and done. So, yeah, I would have to go with Notre Dame as well. They need this game. They need this win. Starting at 7:30, you're absolutely right. It's going to be insane. So I'll take maybe Notre Dame scores high on this one just because they want to bounce back. So I'll go Notre Dame 49, USC I'll give him 35.
Okay. Then the game of the week. We got number 8 Oregon traveling to number 7 Washington. Washington, it's basically a pick'em game. They're getting a field goal at home. So basically Vegas is saying this is a pick'em game. Uh, this is the game to watch this weekend, my friend. It starts at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Again, it's in Seattle. It's in Washington. Oregon playing so well offensively and defensively. Washington, the same thing. This is so hard for me to pick. But again, home field advantage plays a part in the Pac-0 most of the time. This is going to be a shootout. This will be an absolute shootout. I know both defenses are kind of stellar, but you can throw the defenses out the window. I've got to go with Washington at home. Washington 44, Oregon 40.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Washington, Oregon, they're at home. It's so daggone it. I'll go with Washington as well. I'll take Washington. Could it be that high scoring? I'll take Washington 28, Oregon 27. He's just squeak out by one.
Yeah, this is going to be a track meet. I just foresee a track meet. I just usually when these two teams get together, it is anyway.
Yeah.
So I just don't see a lot of defense being played in this. So next game up, number 6 Penn State hosting UMass. Spread's 41. Penn State at home. Massachusetts, they haven't even had a bye week yet. They're 1-6. They're on. This will be their 8th game, which is just unbeknownst to me how they haven't had a bye yet. So they should fire their AD. Because at this point of the season, you haven't had a bye yet. That's Penn State at home, 3:30 kickoff. UMass is lucky if they score. They're UMass. Anybody who's watched UMass football, and I'm not trying to dump on them, but like the last 10 to 12 years, they're bad. I mean, they're really bad. So I don't even think Massachusetts scores. I'm going to go Penn State 49, Massachusetts 0.
You know what? Do you know? Is it is it a whiteout, or have they already had their whiteout game?
No, they already had. Not for UMass.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I don't know. I'm just saying maybe the fans just decided to show up that way. But yeah, I think it's going to be an onslaught. I don't see, obviously, UMass. And again, no offense to those folks, maybe since Doug Flutie days. I don't know. Call me crazy. But anyways, I think Penn State obviously takes this one. I'll go 56-0.
Okay. Then we get into the top 5. We got number 4 Florida State hosting Syracuse. Syracuse at 4-2. Florida State favored by 17.5. Syracuse got off to the 4-0 start, but they've lost the last 2. They lost to Clemson a couple weeks ago, which I think I had picked Syracuse. I don't remember. And then last week they just got drubbed by North Carolina. So again, Florida State at home. Syracuse is just one of those pretenders. I mean, they had a good season. They started off strong last year, I believe. They faded when they came up against some of the big boys. Early start, 12 p.m. Again, FSU favored by 17 and a half. FSU had the good victory last week. They seemed to put it together. Syracuse coming into a hostile environment. Um, this game's not going to be competitive. I know Syracuse will probably put up a fight for maybe a quarter, but I'm going to go Florida State 41, Syracuse 17.
All right. I got a little distracted by all of a sudden we got on the studio roof a pounding rain and winds that came out of nowhere. Again, we're in Florida. That's what happens. There's a tropical storm out there in the Gulf. So who knows if this is maybe possibly around it. But yeah, I even missed who are my two that I'm picking here?
Florida State and Syracuse.
Ooh, wait a minute. See, I'm telling you, that's how freaking distracted. It came out of nowhere. I'm like, what the heck is that playing around on the roof there? Syracuse taking that whopping loss. I got to go Florida State. Florida State 38, Syracuse possibly 13.
Next game up, we have number 3 Ohio State going to Purdue. Ohio State favored by 19 and a half this game. Game is on Peacock. Another, Big Ten. There's all the early starts at 12 o'clock. So Ohio State 5-0, Purdue 2-4. Again, Ohio State has climbed back up into the top 4. They now seem to be putting everything together. I think that win against Notre Dame has really boosted this program. It's boosted this football team. Again, Purdue, one of the middle tier teams, always in the Big Ten. Every once in a while, they'll have a 9-3 record or 8-4 record and make a really good bowl. But forget it about this game. I mean, again, home cooking. Purdue might come out fired up for like the first maybe half a quarter. But then I think Ohio State lays it on them. I'm going to go Ohio State 46, Purdue 17.
Yeah. Ohio State, I can see them running the table on this one. Purdue's at home, but yeah, I'll take Ohio State. Ohio State 35, Purdue 20.
Okay. Starting to agree with me more and more. I like it.
It's the cicada in me.
That's it. Number 2, Michigan hosting Indiana. Michigan, again, favored by a huge spread, 33.5. Indiana, they started off okay. I think they've lost 3 in a row now. Michigan has seemed to put all the pieces together. They've been sitting at number 2 all year long behind Georgia. They've closed the gap a little bit. They might have pulled away, or Georgia might have pulled away a little bit because of the drubbing of Kentucky. But Michigan at home, again, 12 o'clock start. Just Indiana's outmatched. Do I think Michigan will cover the spread? That's kind of high. Usually when the spread is this high, Michigan normally doesn't cover.
Right.
So Michigan will probably score a couple touchdowns. So I'll go Michigan 44, Indiana 14.
Yeah, I'll take Michigan as well. I don't think Indiana. We're talking about basketball. Even then, it would be a tough matchup. But I will take Michigan against Indiana. You know what? I will match your score because I think you're probably dead on that one.
Okay, it's good to be the king.
Yeah,
just
have it your way.
Yeah. And then finally, we get to the number 1 team in the country, which they've been all year. Number 1, Georgia, going to Vanderbilt. Georgia 6-0. Vanderbilt 2-5. Georgia's favored by 31.5. This will be a beatdown. Everybody saw the beatdown Georgia put on Kentucky last week. They got tired of hearing about Kentucky. being a possible like slip up for them. Vanderbilt's just outmatched. We all know Vanderbilt's traditionally a baseball and a basketball school, so uh, Georgia just has too much on both sides of the ball. And again, Georgia finally seems to be, they didn't have the slow start last week against Kentucky. They pounced on them. You might have a little bit of a letdown because it's Vanderbilt. Uh, there's just too much on both sides of the ball for Georgia. They're just, they have the material to beat the other's material and win it handily. Again, spread 31.5. Vanderbilt probably lucky if they score 10 points. I'm going to go Georgia 49, Vanderbilt 7.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles South, aka Georgia Bulldogs. Said I
Yeah.
will take them as well. I think this will be an onslaught. I'll go Georgia 45, Vanderbilt 3.
All right. So we got about 8 minutes left here. I am going to, and you know what? Because I'm an idiot, I'm going to give you the Mustaki.
Ah, there you go.
I always now it slips my mind again because I don't want to. It's Mustaki Authentic Heroes
There you
money line.
go.
That's what it is. I always forget the authentic for some reason. I
Yeah.
just remember Mustaki Hero, but I always forget the Mustaki Authentic. So again, one of them I have on here, Penn State and UMass. I got to go back to it to see what Penn State was favored. But I think it was 41.5. I like I said, UMass is lucky if they score. I think Penn State. I'm not going to say they're going to run the score up on them, but the second team for Penn State will probably score a lot of points after halftime. So I would take Penn State minus the 41.5. I have got Louisville. I'm just flipping back and forth my notes to a screen because I can't do it on my laptop. Because if I do, you'll see this and I'll freeze. So, so let me go back to the Louisville line here real quick. Give me just a second. Louisville is favored by 7.5. Again, it's gonna be a whitewash. Pittsburgh, I don't think stands a chance. Louisville covers that 7.5 easy. Um, and now I've got to go to the regular schedule because all these other games are basically not in the top 25. Uh, sorry, talk amongst yourselves. Um,
In in baseball related news, in the top of the sticks, Phillies are up
oh,
7-2.
I got Maryland minus the 14 at home against Illinois. Illinois is just in disarray right now. They're just it's not a good program. I know Maryland is coming off the loss to Michigan, um, or I think it was Ohio State. It was Ohio State, I believe it was. Um, but I just think Maryland bounces back in a big way. I think they covered that 14. I'm just trying to scroll through to where these other teams are. Oh, another team I have, UNLV, is minus 9.5 on the road at Nevada. Nevada's 0-5. They're probably one of the worst teams in the country. UNLV's sitting at 4-1. I just don't see how Nevada hangs with them. And I think there was one or two others that I have in here. Give me just a second here. I got Penn State, UNLV, Maryland, Rutgers, Louisville. Oh, the other one I had, and where was it? It was West Virginia, and I just saw it. Well, maybe I didn't. Give me just a second.
Sure.
Well, maybe I was mistaken. I don't even see West Virginia on here. So I digress. So I took Penn State, UNLV, Maryland, Rutgers, and Louisville. Uh, just some news and notes from college football this week. Colorado star Travis Hunter, he may play Friday versus Stanford. Everybody knows he's been out almost a month with the lacerated, I think, liver after that, dirty hit. Um, he may play. I'm going to say that because it's Stanford, because they should win this football game, I don't think they should play him just yet. So, um, uh, Kansas quarterback Daniels is doubtful for Oklahoma State. That's one of the reasons why I went with Oklahoma State in this game. Um, if he does not play, I think it's going to be real hard for Kansas to go into Stillwater and beat Oklahoma State. I just don't think it's going to happen. Uh, Bama's a little bit banged up um, going into Arkansas, but again, I just don't think it matters. Um, and I'm just looking at some of the other the news and notes. So basically, what I'm looking for this week in college football, I definitely, as I said, the game of the week is Oregon Washington. Everybody needs to tune in. If you love college football and you love seeing competitive college football, this is the game to tune into because it will be one of the games of the week. So um, I'm excited for it. I'm pumped for the game. Again, it's Seattle's a tough place to play, and these are two of the perennial front runners this year for the Pac Zero. And I apologize for calling it the Pac Zero, but that's what it is for me this year. It's the Pac Zero, and um, some of the other games in the top 25 that I'm kind of like curious to see is how is Utah going to bounce back against Cal? Uh, the North Carolina Miami game. Angel and I discussed it. Miami coming off the loss to Georgia Tech. Nobody expected them to lose to Georgia Tech. How do you get anybody that's played sports and if you lose a game you're not supposed to, and now you got to go to another perennial power in the ACC the last couple of years in North Carolina. How are they going to bounce back, or is North Carolina just going to say not in our house? Um, so we'll be interested on that game. Um, One of the other games, Angel picked Texas A&M. I picked Tennessee. Again, how does Texas A&M bounce back after the Alabama loss? Leave Tennessee coming off a bye. Um, we'll see how that goes. Again, I'm interested in the Auburn LSU game as well. LSU, when's the defense going to show up? And again, in Death Valley. And then the only other two games I'm interested in is USC Notre Dame. I'm picking Notre Dame, like I said, to win. USC, this is where it catches up when I'm at defense. And then the only other game I'm interested in is that Oregon State UCLA game because, again, I said before, the Pac Zero at some point when they start playing one another, traditionally, they always beat up on one another. This is why they've only had one team in the college football playoff, and that was Washington. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this game because whoever loses this game, you're basically out of the Pac Zero championship. So again, I want to thank Angel for joining me again today, for filling in. Um, Angel, what's coming up next at 8 o'clock?
Coming up next at 8 o'clock, it is Talking Hoops with our guest, Sandy Adams, who's been on with us before, but she's going to be on for the first time talking hoops. And she'll be talking about the Memphis Rebounders, her career as a photographer entrepreneur, also the career changes she has made. But Sandy's always a good time to talk to. And she's also one of two co hosts, her and Michael Wilson, who do the Fifth Quarter podcast that you guys can hear right on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. And don't forget also, there's going to be a switch coming up here in 2 weeks where Ryan and myself will be Monday through Friday live over on the Tony Bruno Sports Network. So this will change a little bit as far as the line of scrimmage. It may be seasoned into the final hour of our 2-hour show, our live show, and or we may do a hour on live 365 and then maybe carry it over to Sports Radio 102. So we're playing around with it. But also, for those who don't know, Broad Street South will still be around, but more importantly, the new name of the show coming up today for Ryan and myself is going to be Martinez and Company. So that would be the new name for the show when we switch over to Live 365 with Tony Bruno Sports Network. Still more to be talked about, so we'll keep you guys in tune.
Yes, LV, hopefully, He'll be back next week. And again, I hope everything works out with the family issue you had. I want to thank Mustakis, Authentic Heroes. Oh, and Pete's Famous Pizza
Yeah.
as well. So again, thanks everybody. Enjoy the games. I'll see everybody on tomorrow night with Angel on Broad Street South. And there's a whole lot to get into tomorrow as well. So again, Angel, thank you, and I'll see everybody next week.
All righty.